Today I'm going to be going over how you can pass your funded account challenges or combines within a single day or a single trade. And this does not apply to every single firm. As you guys know, some firms they require you to have 2 days to pass, like Top Step, which that I heard apparently that may change soon based on what they've been talking about on Twitter or X. But we'll see what happens with that. But nonetheless, this is mainly a thing a strategy to pass combines that give you 1 day to pass. I believe Apex, I think, has 1 day pass sometimes. I don't remember it entirely clearly because I don't trade with Apex anymore. I just trade with Top Step and then my personal live account. But it's mainly for firms that have the 1 day pass where you can just pass within a single day. You can also use this on 2 day pass firms challenges like Top Step. It's just that it will take a bit. It's a lower probability, and I'll explain real quick the probabilities of why that is. But essentially, I'm going to be showing you guys 3 strategies to pass these challenges extremely fast. The first one is going to be like a normal trading strategy, but the other two are going to be specifically geared towards, it's almost like gambling. However, I will say, or it's purely gambling. However, I will say these are fund account challenges, right? And you focus on, remember, these fund account challenges are paper until you until you actually pass. So for a lot of people, if you're already consistent in your trading, then you don't want to spend too much time on these combines or challenges. Now, I would not suggest this at all. If you're someone that's not profitable yet, or you have not gotten a payout yet, or you don't have a personal account with a good track record, just click off this video and don't watch the rest, because this is not good for you, okay? Because if you pass the challenge, but you're not profitable, you're not going to be able to get a payout, so there's no point. You're just wasting more money and time. So I'll suggest only do this if you already have proven yourself profitable consistently, either through payouts, growing a personal account with a track record, things like that. So yeah, anyway, again, like I said, only if you're consistently profitable. So would I suggest doing this, because all this does is just saves you time in the valuation phase to get and stack more funded accounts to have more capital to later basically get bigger payouts. Now, the first strategy is all you do is literally wait for an A+ setup. So whatever an A+ setup is to you, I made a video going over my A+ setup confluences. It includes many of them, right? You're going to have obviously being pro external trend. There's waiting for internal liquidity sweep prior to your entry, waiting for some sort of fake manipulation leg to occur prior to your entry, and then waiting for your entry model to occur. So you see people getting stopped out early before you enter. Liquidity sweeps are a confluence in general, like external liquidity sweeps are pro trend. What else did I say? Data wicks, you can use data wicks for sure as a setup essentially to take. What else? There's some other confluences I did mention. Internal chain indicators, those are confluences that will boost that win rate. And just a few other things, honestly, right? Like if you have a combination of price inversing a fair value gap plus an OB entry model, that's higher probability than just an IFVG by itself or an OB entry model by itself. Things of that nature. There's only so many confluences you can really stack up onto each other before you filter out too many trades where you basically end up never taking really a trade or have too low trade frequency. So keep in mind about trade frequency and how you don't want that number to be optimized too low, right? You still want trade frequency to grow an account or get payouts. But essentially, all you're doing is just waiting for an A+ setup that you can guarantee like a 70 to 80% or 90% win rate, and you full port that A+ setup. So let's say you have an A+ setup that you know from backtesting is in 70% win rate. And let's say the A+ setup, for this example, let's just say, we'll just use this trade here. This is, we'll just use this because why not? What time is this? This is 8:30. Okay, this is before kill zone. Okay, not the best time, but you could make it work. Let's say you take this setup here. Yeah, not my favorite setup. Let me find a different setup actually, honestly. Okay, let's just say you take this setup here, which is the setup I took, but let's say you take this setup. Let's say this is an A+ setup to you based on your backtesting. It meets all your confluences, right? All you do is just basically full port the whole count in terms of you still have your stop loss and TP, right? The only difference is you're just maxing out the lot size so that you can pass the challenge in a single day. So let's say you have a challenge and it's a 1 day pass firm, like for example Apex. I think it's every day. I'm not, or it's specific occasions. I don't remember anymore. But let's say it's 1 day pass and you need to make 3K, for example, or 2.5K. All you're doing is putting the max number of contracts, and once that 2.5K profit target meets, you just close the trade, and you'll pass within a single day, right? Within a single trade, I should say. So it's a very fast way to pass, especially if you have a system that has a very high win rate. Just wait for that. Wait patiently. That's the main thing about this strategy. Just wait patiently for that A+ setup, and then full port it, and then you make that 3K or whatever your profit target is, and you're done, and you pass. Now the other method for this is this it's not another method or strategy. It's just an alternative option. Is instead of having your typical TP, let's say for stop 100 TP for this setup is at the low here. Instead of having this force over TP, all you do is set your exact same trade entry, right? Same confluence, everything, but set your stop loss or your take profit to 1-to-1 risk reward, and then full port that. And if 1-to-1 is not enough, like risk reward to obviously make 3K, then or your profit target, then obviously you have to increase your TP. But point is, essentially you just full port, and as soon as you get to that profit target, you exit the trade, whether that's manually or you could look at the monetary value and set your TP ahead of time. Once that TP hits, you pass the challenge. And for 2-day passes, this is a problem with Top Step or 2-day pass firms. Let's say your setup is 80% win rate. If you pass in a single trade in a single day, it's an 80% chance you will pass. However, this is how probabilities work when you have when you need to have 2 days to pass. What happens is the probabilities of winning one trade setup with an A+ setup is 80% based on back testing. However, to win that 2 times in a row, so the keyword is in a row. These are 2 independent events. So if you have studied probabilities, you understand what I'm saying. This is probability of A occurring and probability of B occurring, not that B is given A, right? So essentially what it is these are 2 independent events. However, to get 80%, to hit both times on an 80% setup in a row, you end up with multiplying these 2 percentages in terms of probabilities, and it's a 64% chance of doing so. So instead of having 80% chance of passing, your odds go down to a mere 64%, which is, I mean, it's all right, but you want to obviously have a higher chance of passing these firms challenges, right? Especially if you're already profitable and you're just looking to scale with more accounts. Now, this gets even worse when you have also a lower win rate. If your A+ setup is only 60%, your odds of passing is pretty low. It's much lower than 50-50. You're at a 36%, if my math is right here. You're at a 36% chance of passing your combine or challenge, because you have to hit 2 times consecutively on day 1 and on day 2. So 2 trades, 1 trade per day. So that is the main problem I'll see here. If you do use this method on 2-day passes, it just will have a lower probability of hitting or passing. So now that we got that out the way, let's go to the actual straight up gamble method. This has nothing to do with your trading strategy or whatsoever. This is purely based on news releases. So look for, number one is go to forexfactory.com, look for red folder impact news. Filter it by, there's a filter button. Just filter it based on red impact news only. That means news releases or economic news releases that essentially actually move the market. Because typically orange and yellow folders have no effect or little effect on the candles of how the market moves. Therefore, we don't care about those. We mainly just want to focus on red folder impact, because those are the folders or economic releases that impact the market the most, right? And not every news release or red folder news release is the same equal impact. Some red folder news releases will make bigger changes to the market or alter the market in a bigger way, cause a bigger market move than other red folder news, despite both being red folder news. So what I'm going to tell you guys here is very important. Focus on these specific red folder news: CPI, PPI, FOMC, and NFP. These are basically the top 4 biggest economic news releases that will make the most impact on the market. And you will often go and backtest this if you don't believe me. You will see more often than not, majority of times, these news releases will make massive, big 1-minute candles. And that's how you will pass in a single day on your prop firm challenge accounts. You're relying purely gambling on the news release. Because what happens is news release brings volatility in the market, and not only with volatility but time, right? You can hit your TP within a single candle. And I'm gonna show an example real quick right here. And I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not gonna show several examples, but feel free to backtest it yourself if you'd like. But essentially, this is April 10th, Thursday. There's 2 ways to gamble this. And I don't like to say the word gamble in here because obviously we don't want to be gamblers, but this is, again, like I said, it's just a method of passing them quickly for those that are already consistent. 8:30 a.m. So let's just turn off this indicator. 8:30 a.m. is right here. And what do you see at 8:30 a.m.? You see this massive 1-minute candle. So there's 2 methods or strategies of using news releases. Number 1 is you get 2 accounts. So first method, or it's not number 1 method, this is method number 1, is buy 2 challenge accounts, buy on one of them and sell on the other. This is literally just hedging. So you guys know what hedging is. Very straightforward. But you don't buy or sell after news releases. You always wait, so buy a few seconds, or enter. You can enter maybe a minute before the news releases. So let's say we're here. Let's say we're at 8:29 right here, or 8:28. Doesn't really matter too much, honestly, as long as it's not a huge difference in move and volatility. Let's say we're at 8:28. This was 8:29, right? 1 minute before news. It could be seconds. This does not matter as long as you're buying before news and not way before news. You don't want to be buying or selling way before news, because you have to handle all this drawdown or this period of price action that could just mess you up, right? Mess your unrealized P&L up. You just want to buy basically right before news or sell right before news. You're just hedged. One count is buying, the other count is selling. And you have no stop loss, by the way. No stop loss, because you're just full porting full porting the maximum contracts that's allowed on the firm. And you can set your TP ahead of time as well. So keep that in mind. You set your TP ahead of time. Just set your TP, predefine it is my recommendation. You don't want to manually close. You can if you want. But personally, I recommend just having it predefined. There's no reason to manually close, especially if the news release, what happens is sometimes you have very big, massive wicks that wicks for 2 seconds and then comes right back down. So if you're waiting manually, you may just miss out on that entire unrealized profit of that wick, and you end up messing up the system. So have your TP predefined on both accounts. You buy and sell on either account. No stop loss, so ignore this position tool. There's no stop loss here. All you're doing is buying and selling separately on each account. So account 1, you're buying. Account number 2, for example, you're selling. 1 minute before news, and boom, as soon as news releases, you will hit TP on one account, which will pass you for when they pass, and on the other account, you will likely hit stop loss. There are a few circumstances where it's a candle where it has wicks on both sides, and depending on where obviously your max drawdown is or your stop loss, since you don't really have a stop loss, it really depends on when you hit the max drawdown amount. You could theoretically hit stop loss on both accounts, or you could even theoretically take profit on both accounts, right? So those are the potential outcomes, but typically you're basically almost guaranteed at least you'll pass one, unless you get wicked out on both, but that's a lot less likely to occur. You at least pass one. If you get lucky, you pass both of them, because price goes in one direction, goes in another direction. But again, like I said, that's not as probable, because For news releases, what will happen is either it's good sentiment or bad sentiment. So either the news candle will be extremely bullish or extremely bearish in one direction. It typically won't like to go both ways. It won't like to expand fully bullish and then a few candles later expand fully bearish, right? That's a lot less likely to occur. So that's method number one. Method number two is all you're doing is, so if we go back here, you're putting a buy stop and sell stop. So if you don't know what that is, you just look it up. You can learn it real quick. You put a buy stop and a sell stop. And this is, instead of on 2 accounts, this is on 1 account. You can do on 2 accounts, it doesn't really matter. But this is for, I guess, firms that don't support or don't allow you to hedge. Some firms don't allow you to hedge, right? They don't allow you to buy or sell on separate accounts. So at the same time. So for this method, all you're doing is on 1 account, you just have a buy order there for buy stop, and you have a sell stop here. The number like price points away. This is something you kind of have to roughly estimate. No one knows exactly how big the candles are. You just basically put them at the exact same distance from current price. So if this is like 0.44%, you'll keep this sell stop at about 0.44%. So probably down here. And again, no stop loss here. Same situation as always. You're basically full porting max contracts on the sell or buy stop. So you have both these set, right? And what happens is once the news releases, this one probably won't hit because we already saw what happened, but news will basically hit it will basically hit one of these sides. So we either go full on bullish or full on bearish majority of times. So you'll make money on the bullish move, or you'll make money on the bearish news move. And what happens is this is a higher probability chance of passing than hedging, because like I said, news releases are typically one directional. So what I mean by that is you're not going to take a loss and a win. You're likely just going to take a win, because you will hit you basically, if the news is bullish, it will activate this trade. Otherwise, if the news is bearish and you get lucky where it doesn't wick the other side and it goes bearish, it will likely just hit the other trade. So this is a higher probability chance of passing your account, your profit from account, but it's not a guaranteed chance like hedging where basically one can at least be guaranteed to pass. This is just a lot higher probability passing just one account for those that don't support hedging. So that's basically the gist of this video. Just going over 2 methods plus 1 method, which is a straight up full porting and A+ setup. These are ways you can pass your profit from challenges next time within just a single day. Or if you're on 2 days, unfortunately, you have to do this twice. And the probabilities, like I mentioned, instead of, for the hedging, it's a 50-50 odds, right? Instead of 50-50, if it's a 2-day pass, you're at a 0.25. So you have 25% odds of passing. So it's a lot lower probability. So just keep that in mind if you're going to do this on 2-day passes. So yeah, that's it for me. And hopefully this video has helped you guys figure out basically how to pass these and take advantage of these prop firms fast to scale up your capital if you're already profitable.